The moment I heard the words AI fabricated, I knew I had already lost my job. The woman from HR slid a thin folder across the table and said my name like it was already past tense. Helen Carter, she began. Careful, rehearsed. This meeting is to inform you that your employment is being terminated, effective immediately. I didn't speak. I waited. People always say the real reason if you give them enough silence. She cleared her throat. The basis is a violation of company policy, specifically the creation and distribution of falsified media intended to damage executive leadership. I leaned forward. You're saying the video is fake? She nodded once. The CEO reviewed it himself. That landed harder than the termination, I said. Did he say that to you, or are you saying it for him? Her jaw tightened. His conclusion was that the video was artificially generated, AI fabricated. She didn't say it like an opinion. She said it like a verdict. I felt something cold settle behind my ribs. Not panic, not anger, recognition. This wasn't a misunderstanding. No one was confused. No one needed clarification. They had chosen the story they could survive. I didn't fabricate anything, I said. I sent him exactly what happened. She didn't look at me. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. So that's it, I asked. No investigation. No review. She finally met my eyes. Helen, the decision has already been made. That was when I understood the real message. Telling the truth hadn't scared them. Letting it exist had. My name is Helen Carter. I worked here for 6 years. My performance reviews were spotless. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't angry. I was careful, and I was punished anyway. They stood up. I didn't. I was still sitting there when I realized something else. Something quiet and dangerous. They fired the wrong person. The story you are about to hear is a work of fiction created by the writing team at Her Revenge. While inspired by real workplace dynamics and power imbalances, all characters, companies, and events are fictional. This story is meant to explore what happens when truth collides with authority, and what it costs to refuse silence. When I walked out of that room, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about the moment the video started recording, about the look on my boss's face when he realized someone had finally stopped pretending not to see. I had seen him do it before, not like this, not this openly, but enough times to recognize the pattern the second his voice changed. Do you need me to spell it out for you again, he said, standing too close to her desk. Or are you just slow when the room gets quiet? Her name was Maya Lin. She had joined the engineering team 3 months earlier, fresh out of a lateral transfer from another division. Smart, precise, careful with her words. Right now, she sat frozen in her chair, eyes locked on her screen like it might protect her. I followed the deployment checklist, she said. Barely audible. The rollback delay wasn't. He laughed, not loud, controlled. You think a checklist saves you from accountability? People nearby stopped typing. No one turned around. I heard myself say, that's not how you talk to your team. He turned toward me slowly, like he was indulging a distraction. Excuse me. You're berating her, I said, in front of everyone. He smiled without warmth. Then mind your own business. Helen, Maya whispered. Please, not to him, to the room. No one answered. That was when I slid my phone out of my pocket and pressed record. I didn't raise it. I didn't announce it. I kept my hand low, screen dark. Camera pointed just enough to catch his face and her voice. You want to play hero now, he said. Eyes flicking downward. I didn't respond. He leaned closer to Maya. If you can't handle pressure, maybe you shouldn't be here. My hand shook. I tightened my grip. He noticed. Of course he did. His gaze lifted, met mine, then dropped to the phone again. For a second, I thought he might stop. Instead, he smirked. Go ahead, he said. Record it. See how far that gets you. The room stayed silent. Maya stared straight ahead, tears slipping down without a sound. I didn't stop recording. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with the video paused on my phone, my thumb hovering over the screen like it weighed 100 pounds. I thought about HR, about forms, about closed doors and careful language, about how many times I'd watched complaints disappear into policy folders no one ever opened again. So I didn't go there. At 11:42 that night, I opened my work email and addressed it to the CEO, Richard Halverson. I had met him twice in 6 years, once at a holiday event, once in a hallway when he nodded without slowing down. I attached the video. I typed one sentence. This happened today on the engineering floor. No accusations, no commentary, no explanation. I read it 3 times, deleted 2 extra words, then hit send. The email whooshed away, and immediately I wanted it back. The next morning, I checked my phone before I brushed my teeth. Nothing. By the time I got to the office, my inbox was still quiet. No reply, no request for context, no meeting invite. At 9:12, I saw it, read, not a response, just confirmation that it had been opened. At 10:30, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. "This is Elaine Foster," the woman said when I answered. "I'm Mr. Halverson's executive assistant." My throat tightened. "Yes. He's aware of the message you sent," she said. "That's it?" I asked. There was a pause, just long enough to feel intentional. "If he needs additional information, we'll reach out. Does he have questions?" I said. Another pause. "Not at this time." The call ended. No reassurance, no acknowledgement, just silence, delivered politely. I stared at my screen, waiting for something else to follow. An email, a meeting request, anything that sounded like concern. Nothing came. I went back to my desk and tried to work. But the quiet felt different now. Heavy, deliberate. By the end of the day, I understood something I hadn't that morning. He had seen everything, and he had chosen not to respond. The HR meeting didn't start as a conversation. It started as a conclusion. Patricia Rowe sat across from me with her hands folded, a tablet resting beside her like it already held the answer. "We've reviewed the material you submitted," she said. "There's no need to revisit the incident itself. I didn't submit material." I said, "I submitted evidence." She tapped the screen once. "Our internal technical assessment indicates the video cannot be verified as authentic." "Who ran the assessment?" I asked. "Our compliance team. Names," I said, "credentials." Patricia's smile thinned. "That won't be necessary. It's very necessary," I said. "That man humiliated an employee in front of witnesses. I want a formal investigation." She exhaled slowly. "Helen, the company is in the middle of a sensitive acquisition. Anything that raises questions about leadership conduct creates risk. So the timing makes it inconvenient," I said. She didn't deny it. "I want to speak to Richard," I said. "Now." Patricia glanced at the tablet, then pressed a button. The room filled with the faint hum of a speaker connecting. "This is Richard," the voice said. Calm, distant. "Did you watch the video?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "And I can't verify its authenticity," he replied. "And I won't let unproven media endanger the company." "Unproven," I repeated. "You didn't ask me a single question. I don't need to," he said. "My responsibility is to the organization." "What about your responsibility to the people in it?" I said. There was a pause. Not hesitation, calculation. "We're protecting hundreds of jobs," he said. "I won't sacrifice that for a clip we can't confirm." Patricia cleared her throat. "Based on this assessment, we're closing the matter." I felt my hands curl into fists beneath the table. "You're calling the truth artificial because it's inconvenient." Richard's voice hardened. "I'm calling it unverified. There's a difference." "No," I said quietly. "There isn't." The line went dead. Patricia looked at me like she'd just witnessed something regrettable but unavoidable. "Security will follow up with next steps." I stood. My legs felt steady, even though my chest didn't. As I walked out, one thought stayed with me, clear and sharp. They weren't denying what happened. They were burying it. Security arrived faster than I expected. 2 men I recognized but didn't know by name stood just outside the HR door. One of them said, "We'll give you a few minutes to collect your things." "I don't need a few minutes," I said. "Everything important is already gone." They didn't react to that. They just nodded and stepped behind me, close enough to be felt. We walked past the engineering floor together, the same aisle where Maya's desk sat, the same stretch of carpet where his voice had carried without consequence. No one looked up. Keyboards kept moving, screens glowed, conversations stopped without stopping. A few people glanced, then immediately looked away, like eye contact might make them complicit. Maya didn't turn around. I knew she could hear us. I knew she could feel the shift in the room. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. "I'm so sorry," her message read. "I can't say anything. I'm scared." I typed back. "I know." Then deleted the words. "It's not your fault," because I didn't believe that anymore. At my desk, one of the guards watched while I slid my laptop into my bag. The other checked his watch. No one spoke. As we reached the elevator, a manager I'd worked with for years stepped aside to let us pass. He didn't meet my eyes. He said nothing. That silence felt heavier than any accusation. In the parking garage, one of the guards cleared his throat. "Good luck," he said, quietly. I sat in my car for a long time after they left. My hands rested on the steering wheel, steady. My heart wasn't racing. It wasn't sinking either. That was when it came to me, not anger, not revenge. A detail, a meeting from years ago. A clause I'd argued over. A document no one had bothered to reread because it had never mattered before. I exhaled slowly and reached for my phone. They thought they'd erased me. They hadn't remembered what I still controlled. I didn't go home right away. I drove until the noise in my head quieted, then pulled into a 24-hour diner and opened my laptop. The contract took less than a minute to find. 6 years old. Digitally signed. Untouched since onboarding. I scrolled past the boilerplate. Confidentiality, non-disparagement, arbitration. The language everyone pretends to read. Then I reached the section my lawyer had argued over. "Do you really need this?" I had asked her back then. Annoyed by the delay, she'd looked at me over her glasses and said, "You're being hired to build something they don't fully understand. Never give away control of what keeps the lights on." I remembered how HR had sighed on the call. "This is standard," the recruiter had said. "Then standard won't mind one more sentence." My lawyer replied, "I found it now, exactly where she said it would be. A single paragraph, dry, unemotional. Operational access to proprietary systems remained under my authority unless explicitly transferred in writing. No expiration, no automatic revocation." I felt my pulse slow. I pulled up my email archive and searched my name. There it was. A message from Richard Halverson himself, sent after the first major rollout, approved as discussed. It read, "Your access remains unchanged. No conditions. No timeline. At the time, no one had cared. It had been convenient, efficient. I was trusted, invisible. Now it meant everything. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should talk to a lawyer," it said. I typed back. "I already have one." A few seconds passed. "Then they're saying you don't own anything." I closed the contract and took a sip of cold coffee. "They signed it," I replied. "That's ownership." I didn't feel triumphant. I felt precise. This wasn't leverage built on anger or impulse. It was built on paper, signatures, and the kind of oversight that only matters when it's too late. I shut the laptop and stood. They had spent years trusting a clause they never bothered to remember, and I still had the keys. I waited until morning, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted the timing to be unmistakable. Business hours, active systems, witnesses. I logged in with credentials that still worked. No alarms, no warnings, just access, exactly as it had always been. I didn't delete a single file. I didn't corrupt data or touch backups. I changed permissions, one layer at a time. The first call came in 6 minutes later. I let it ring. The second was from an internal extension I recognized. Then another, then 3 more in quick succession. I watched the dashboard quietly as status lights shifted from green to gray. Services didn't crash. They paused. Processes waited for authorization that never came. A text message appeared on my screen. "Are you doing this?" I didn't reply. Another call. This time I answered. "Helen," Richard said. His voice wasn't sharp. It wasn't controlled. It was thin. "What's happening right now?" I withdrew access, I said. "The same access you confirmed in writing. You can't just shut down operations," he said. "I didn't shut anything down," I replied. I stopped granting permission. There was a pause. I heard movement on his end, muffled voices. Someone saying my name in the background. "This is serious," he said. "Clients are calling. We have commitments." "You had commitments yesterday," I said. "You chose which ones mattered." His breath came through the line, unsteady. "What do you want?" "I want the truth acknowledged," I said. "And the retaliation documented. We can talk about this," he said. "Get legal involved?" "They're already involved," I said. "They've been involved since the day you signed the clause you forgot." Silence, not the comfortable kind. "I need you to restore access," he said, quieter now. "I will," I replied. "After we formalize the consequences." He didn't argue. He didn't threaten. When the call ended, my phone kept ringing. I set it face down and closed my laptop. Nothing was broken. They were just hearing the word no for the first time. Richard insisted on a call with legal present. I agreed, as long as mine joined too. When the line connected, I recognized the voices immediately. His general counsel, calm and clipped. An outside attorney, sharper. Richard spoke last. "This has gone far enough," he said. "Restore access. And we can discuss severance." "I'm not interested in severance," I said. The outside attorney jumped in. "Helen, what you're doing exposes you to significant liability, interference, damages, criminal implications." "I'm listening," I said. "But I'm also reading." I opened the contract and read the section aloud, slowly, word for word. When I finished, there was a pause long enough to hear someone shift papers. "That clause doesn't grant you unilateral authority," the general counsel said. "It does," I replied, "unless you can show a written transfer. Dated, signed." Richard cleared his throat. "We invested heavily in that system. You invested in my work," I said. "Those are not the same thing." He tried a different angle. "Come back," he said. "We'll reinstate you. Title, compensation, whatever it takes." "I don't want my job," I said. "I want the record corrected." The outside attorney said, "We can offer a substantial settlement." "I'm not here for a payout," I said. "I'm here for accountability." Richard's voice tightened. "What does that mean to you?" "It means a written acknowledgement that the video was authentic," I said. "It means a formal finding that my termination was retaliatory. And it means leadership changes documented by the board." "That's not reasonable," he said. "It's structural," I replied. "And it's the only way access comes back." Silence fell again. Heavier this time. The general counsel spoke carefully. "If we agree, you'll restore operations immediately. I'll restore permission," I said. Immediately after the agreement is signed, Richard exhaled, slow and deliberate. "You're asking us to admit fault." "I'm asking you to stop pretending there wasn't any," I said. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Richard said, quietly, "Send your terms." I closed the contract and ended the call. For the first time since HR slid that folder across the table, the ground felt solid under my feet. The board did not call me. My lawyer did. "They've commissioned an independent forensic review," she said. "External firm, no ties to the company." I said nothing. I waited. 2 days later, she called again. Her voice was different this time, precise, satisfied. "They confirmed the video is authentic," she said. "No manipulation, no artificial generation, no alteration." I closed my eyes, not in relief, but in recognition. The truth had finally been treated like a fact instead of a problem. "The board issued findings this morning," she continued. "Richard Halverson has been suspended pending removal for retaliation and failure to disclose material risk." "And HR?" I asked. "Patricia Rowe was terminated with cause," she said. "The record explicitly cites retaliatory conduct against a reporting employee." I pictured the HR conference room, the folded hands, the careful tone, the confidence that came from thinking consequences only applied downward. "Is any of this public?" I asked. "No," my lawyer said, "and it won't be. There would be no press release, no apology tour, no headline correcting the lie they'd told so easily. But there was a document, signed, filed, permanent." The next email came directly from the board's counsel. 3 sentences. My termination was officially reversed. The allegation of falsification was withdrawn. My personnel file would reflect a finding of retaliation, not misconduct. No praise, no acknowledgement of courage, just correction. I forwarded the email to Maya. She replied a minute later. "They moved his office today." That was all she said. That night, my phone stayed quiet. No more calls, no more threats. The noise had drained out of everything, leaving something steadier behind. The system was restored the next morning, exactly as promised. What they lost, they could not get back. What I regained did not require an audience. I signed my first contract 3 weeks after everything went quiet. The woman across the table glanced at the last page and said, "This clause here about retaliation, it's unusually specific. It's non-negotiable." I said. She nodded once. "Then, we're aligned." That was how Helen Carter Consulting officially began. No launch announcement, no press, just work, terms, and clarity. I rented a small office on the north side of Chicago and furnished it with what I needed and nothing more. A desk, a chair, a printer that worked. Clients came carefully at first, then steadily. Most of them found me through referrals. A few came because they had heard I was difficult. Every agreement included the same language: clear reporting channels, independent review, zero tolerance for retaliation. If someone asked why, I told them the truth. I don't work with companies that punish honesty, I said, and I don't fix systems that protect abuse. Some walked away, others signed immediately. Richard never contacted me again. I heard from my lawyer that his suspension became permanent, that the board now required outside oversight for any internal investigations, that HR policies were rewritten in careful, defensive language. The company still existed. It functioned. But it moved differently now, slower, watched, afraid of leaving fingerprints. Maya called one afternoon while I was reviewing a draft agreement. I got promoted, she said. They put it in writing. I'm glad, I told her. So am I, she said, then, quieter, thank you. After we hung up, I sat back and let the silence settle. It didn't feel empty, it felt earned. I never went back to that building. I didn't need to. They called my evidence artificial. Now they treat the truth like a liability, and I'm no longer employed by people who confuse the two.